Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of my opinions about classical music. And let me just say, holy moly, there's a lot more of you here since last time I recorded something. Before we begin, I just want to say thank you so much to every single one of you who's watched the previous video and all the new people here and the old people who's been supporting me for a while. It's been absolutely insane. But anyway, if you are a new viewer, welcome. I hope you enjoy this video. And if you're an old viewer, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this video as well. And let's get started. By popular demand, this video is about Eddy Chen's performance of Paganini's La Campanella, which he performed at Twoset4mil's 4 million subscribers concert and live stream. But before I give any opinion on this performance, I want to clarify that I am aware that they have stated that they only had the idea for him to perform this piece at the concert 2 weeks in advance. And so when I give my opinion, I will be taking this into account. So keep that in mind when you leave your comments down below. And the last thing I want to do before we begin is just to do a quick recap of my marking system, just so everyone's on the same page. To make a longer explanation really short, there are no bad parts. The white parts, where I have not colored in anything, are simply good parts, which means they're nothing special, but they're still good. Next up are the yellow parts, which to me stand out in a positive way from the white parts. And then there's the green parts, which are excellent parts. Basically parts where I've thought, wow, this is really good, amazing, incredible. And then of course, in addition to the colors, I have some comments written into the score. And these are usually either things I really like about the different parts, or they can be stuff that I would have done differently. And of course, that doesn't mean that I think any of these parts are bad or wrong or anything like that. It simply means that I would have preferred it slightly different. So, to start off, I want to say that I am genuinely impressed with this performance. I am willing to bet that Eddy has put in a lot of work on this performance, and it clearly shows in the results. So let's just start at the top with the main theme. And in my opinion, he plays this really well every time it comes back in the piece. I really like how the grace notes are really close to the main note and that he has a lot of character in his playing. And I also find it interesting that I like the last versions of the main theme better than the first few times he plays it. And it's interesting because it's almost as if the character he's playing is developing throughout the piece, and that it shows through the main theme. So let's just have a quick side-by-side listen through the first time he plays the main theme and the last time he plays it, because I think you can hear the character change that has happened in the progress of the piece. It's almost as if he's gotten more and more playful. So let's hear the first time he plays it first. Now let's listen to the last time he plays it. And now I noticed that the second version was in a major key rather than a minor key, which basically means that it is in a happy key rather than a sad key. And obviously I have considered that it may be the reason why I feel the last version is more playful than the first version. But I still hear his tone as lighter and also his staccatos as bouncier, which to me would make something more playful. So I guess it could be that it's just because it's in a major key, but I really don't think that's the only reason I think this part is more playful. But let me know what you think, I'd love to hear. But to summarize, I want to say that I really like his interpretation of the main theme. Now let's just move to the next thing, and that is my favorite part about this performance. It kind of relates to the main theme, so let's just listen to it. The percussionist who plays the bell, he's got such main character vibes. Let's see the second time he shows up as well. I love him, he's my favorite. But anyway, to shift the spotlight back to Eddy, let me highlight another thing he's really good at. And that is changing the tone depending on the character he's playing. If the music warrants a angry tone or aggressive tone, then he'll reflect that in his playing. And obviously also the other way around, so if he's playing something romantic or happy or gentle, then his tone will reflect that as well. The most impressive thing though is how quickly he changes between the different characters. And I think the first time I noticed this was in the part right after the first time the main theme was played. In the part right after the main theme is played, he plays this bouncy and playful character. But then suddenly it changes into this light and airy and sweet character. And obviously this is something a good musician will do. And I think that's one of the things that Eddy's got a really good understanding of and does really well. So let's just have a quick listen to the transition between the two characters. Another place in the music where you can really hear his character shifts is right here. The first character has this fiery, sizzling kind of tone. And this kind of tone is especially evident in the first notes of each phrase. Then for the next part here, he changes the character completely. In this part, his tone is soft and silky and really just smooth. And he plays both of these characters really well, but I think maybe the first character is more interesting than the second one. So let's listen to the sizzles and the soothing. Then after this part comes the stretch of this performance that is my absolute clear favorite. It is a stretch with a lot of beautiful phrasing and crisp articulations. I have written in some comments throughout the score as they show up, but let me just point out a few places for you to look out for. The first place is right here with the amazing crispness of these runs. In this part, you can really hear every single note as he plays them, and they're so evenly spaced apart as well. It's basically peak crispness. Then he follows that up with an amazing character change. Like, if I didn't know that it was Eddy playing both before and after this bar line, I would have thought there were two violinists. Then the last place I want to point out that are just amazing is this part right here. Just like Brett did with the Mendelssohn, he holds the notes that needs to be held and he stretches the time where it needs to be stretched, and the phrasing is just amazing basically. To me, a good phrase is a phrase that doesn't sound like it's being phrased, and in my opinion, Eddy really achieves this in these bars. So while you look out for the things that I pointed out, let's listen to this. And if you paid really close attention, you may have seen that there were two notes circled in this part. And here they are, and as you can see, I wrote that they were slightly rushed. And I am 100% attributing this to his nerves, or maybe that this part is a bit more difficult to play. I wouldn't know, I'm just a beginner violinist after all. I just thought it was kind of interesting that he has the same kind of phrase for many bars before this, and then he gets to this part and it's different. And it's such a super tiny little thing that can make such a big difference. But basically what happens in this part is that the circled note is cut just a fraction too short. And that of course causes the following notes to come too soon. But in this case there's two things that saves the phrase after all. The first thing is of course an alert orchestra who pays attention to their soloist. And the second thing is that he does a beautiful rubato in this part afterwards. So he kind of slows down the pace that he has picked up throughout the previous bars. And I just think it's really well done that he picked up on it and corrected it. Let's just hear the last few bars again, so you can see if you can hear it as well. Then after that comes a part that I don't even understand how he manages to read off the score, let alone play it, and let alone phrase it, but somehow he does it. It may just be my clarinet training making me really scared of the double stops, but it looks terrifying. Any violinists who can fill me in on whether this is actually terrifying or not, I would love to know. But anyway, after the scary parts, we get to this nice place right here. And here, once again, Eddy does a beautiful rubato, before he seemingly skips a whole lot of bars. But actually, he just skips a repetition of the same stuff, and jumps right into the next bit. But let's listen to the scary parts first. The main theme follows these scary parts that we just talked through, and we've already gone over that, so I won't be talking about that again. So that leaves only the last part. And I wish I could say more about Eddy's playing in this part, but I really can't separate him from the section, at least not for most of the time. And while that certainly can work and is kind of implied in the score, I think it would have been better if he was slightly more on top of the orchestra rather than in the orchestra. And he kind of achieves that as he's nearing the halfway point through this part, but I still think that either the orchestra should have played slightly quieter or Eddy should have played slightly louder. The case is kind of, I'm sure he sounded great, but I don't really know. So let's listen through the ending and I'll summarize the main points afterwards. So basically what I've been trying to say throughout this video is that this was really well played. The parts where I've said stuff that could be construed as even vaguely negative are really just parts where he's either nervous or where he's lacking the mental energy surplus to do more of what he already does. Now to have done this in 2 weeks is insane, like wow, I'm so impressed with that. So Eddy, if you're hearing this by some miracle, well done. Now, I want to listen through my favorite bit one more time, but before we do, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I really hope you found this video helpful and interesting, and maybe even you learned something. If you did, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to press the subscribe button if you find my content interesting in general. And if you like this video, press the like button. It would really make my day. Now let's listen and enjoy the best part one more time. And I'll see you next time.